Ho ho hello there, it's finally December, you know what that means. We're going to be taking a look at the LEGO Star Wars Advent Calendar, but this is only day one of not just 24, but 25 full days of mock Ember activity. Today we are taking a look at door number one, what's behind it, and what I've built in order to celebrate. I do have the list of everything ahead of time for these builds, but it's still exciting cracking open the first day of the Advent Calendar and trying to find where it is. Oh, it was under my thumb the whole time. Today we have two. Why do we have two bags? Tuck that away, and based on the instructions, it's going to be a very, very easy build. Day number one holds our Babu Frick minifigure, who I kind of don't want to pull out the bag because I do want to raise an army of these. I did have a custom one that I made quite some time ago. Let me have a look. Oh, it was with George Lucas. Of course it was. I've got my little custom Babu Frick, but this one is so much better. And to celebrate, you've seen the title and thumbnail, we're going to turn not just Babu into Brickheadz, but build an entire 5-pack of Brickheadz from Rise of Skywalker. Here's a closer look at the Babu minifigure. I think this guy is absolutely adorable. As for whether it's like a dual mold, I don't think so because the hands have been painted, probably just painted on instead. But this is very, very awkward to hold. Check it out next to the custom one we made a few months ago. The head's definitely bigger on the Lego version, and I quite like that, but it's not big enough for a Brickheadz. As you can see with some of the custom Brickheadz we've made in the past from Rebuild the Galaxy, these ones, and we put together an Ezra, Sabine and Hera. Brickheadz have quite a chunky brick built head. I'm taking a lot from current Brickheadz that have already been built, like the Anakin character, which is actually the base of the Babu Frick build, and that's the one from Phantom Menace, the little boy Anakin, and also from Grogu, who's the same size despite clearly being a lot smaller in universe, and same size as R2-D2 as well. Those 3x3 Brickheadz seem to be the default size for anyone smaller than the average minifigure. With our little Babu Frick, we now have our brick-built Babu Frick Brickheadz, which looks freaking awesome. By the way, may I just put that pun in there before we get to looking at the actual Brickheadz. The Brickheadz themselves are built very strongly off Anakin, and the hood piece that the Phantom Menace Anakin has went a long way in trying to get that same design across, though a lot of color swaps, and especially that face, the entire face, which is removable in a very creepy way, is built from scratch to represent the same face that LEGO have gone with. Alongside Babu Frick, we have a few other characters that feature on Kijimi, one of which hasn't actually got a Brickheadz, which is beyond me, but C-3PO is still yet to get an actual Brickheadz. Be sure to come back for day 3 where we'll be taking a look at Threepio, and there is another build relating to this minifigure, but you can see this Threepio has the Sith eyes that we did see in Rebuild the Galaxy, and LEGO themselves have already come out with official Sith eyes for Brickheadz characters in the Revenge of the Sith 5-pack. I think you know where I'm going with this. One of those characters is the Grievous, which we built earlier in the year, mid-July, for my fiance's birthday. We went live on her channel and built Grievous, who didn't at the time have those Sith eyes. They're red 1x1 tiles with a yellow circle and then black. We've also seen different colors for Sonic. Let me know how you feel about the different colors in Sonic. Personally, I quite like those Sith eyes. I'm not too sure about those other different colors. Kind of takes away from the Brickheadz style. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the colored eyes, and I can't tell you why, because I love the Sith eyes that LEGO give minifigures. But what we're going to be doing is taking them off Grievous here and giving them to a custom build of C-3PO, which I do have to say, how has C-3PO not had a minifigure? It took until the Return of the Jedi 5-pack for R2-D2 to get a Brickheadz minifigure. And there's not many other main characters in Star Wars, which Threepio is a main character in Star Wars, that don't have any Brickheadz of them, like any costume whatsoever. This is a chance to get like A New Hope 5-pack for 2027 with a Restraining Bolt Threepio. But here we have the Sith-eyed Threepio. I know I know Threepio's eyes are red. I already know there's going to be a comment or two about it, but it would be a missed opportunity to not use the official Sith eyes on this Threepio. And the yellow is just like the gold behind the eyes, which still kind of works for Threepio. This is a fully custom Brickheadz, and I'm really proud of how this turned out. I've taken a few different parts from current Lego Star Wars Brickheadz, especially the studs on the side of the head. I think they turned out really well, and I like how the torso looks as well with the red and the blue. So Lego, come on, here's the design for the Threepio Brickheadz. What you got to lose? I think this in its own like one-off, give us a printed 1x4 tile. I think it would sell really, really well. You could even get like a little round 2x2 printed piece to go on the side of the head and the torso. I don't know the printed parts here. Usually Brickheadz do have at least one printed element that makes them exclusive, makes you need to pick up that Brickheadz. But if you've seen us build like Cody, even Grievous didn't have any printed parts because they're not necessary for a Brickheadz, and none of these Brickheadz have any exclusive printed parts. So you too will be able to build them at home. No technically hard to build areas. I think the hardest part is the torso. So let me show you how that's built, and you should be able to do this in a couple of minutes. Underneath this 2x2 dish on the torso, we have 2 bricks. I believe what they are the snot bricks with the indent. Are they? Let me pull this apart and have a look. No, actually what I've done is attach 2 brackets to the top, 2 yellow on the top, 2 black on the bottom, and just plated out the whole thing 90 degrees with a studs not on top technique. There you go, there's the secret for the torso. The rest is just brick built as you would a regular Brickheadz, and then the head is built on some snot bricks with slopes on the side and the back. Feel free to mix it up, design it how you like it, and then a 4x4 yellow plate with some yellow tiles, and then of course the Sith eyes. But the Sith eyes aren't necessary to the build if you would like a 3PO from any other era. Just switch those out for some regular eyes and 3PO looks a lot better. Here's the 3PO without the Sith eyes. As I told you, looks much, much better and would be perfect. Actually, I forgot the torso. As I said, the 3PO with the regular Brickheadz eyes looks so much better and would be perfect alongside R2-D2. But we've already got an R2-D2 in Brickheadz form. If R2-D2 is the Empire Strikes Back swampy version and 3PO includes a printed, maybe the whole 2x4 panel is printed for 3PO, and we get that restraining bolt from A New Hope 2027, R2 being from Empire doesn't work too well, but Star Wars don't like to redo a lot of Brickheadz, and I think a swampy R2 or maybe even R2-D2 with a restraining bolt, we get the twin pack of those alongside that UCS Sandcrawler that I've been going on about, would be a perfect set to pick up. We've already got Leia. They've already done a Kenobi with the Kenobi Vader, which is close enough for Lego not to redo it. We don't have a Farm Boy Luke, but we have the X-Wing Luke from the same movie. I think we could get away with another R2-D2 because of how much R2-D2 shows up, and this was available only in a 5-pack. It would be a nicer, more affordable way to get R2 and 3PO, and would also give us some exclusive costumes that blend into any other scene. You wouldn't notice the restraining bolts there, but also would look great amongst any display. Maybe even just give us 3PO by himself. The next minifigure, let's keep with the Sith eyes here. An exclusive minifigure we got back in April, the Sith Eternal Palpatine, who somehow returned. Technically a clone of Palpatine, so would be separate to the one we saw in Revenge of the Sith. But I have to admit, I went with a very similar build to Revenge of the Sith. So if you've built that one, there's only a few modifications to make to build this guy. Mainly the difference is on the torso, which is a little more complicated, so I think I'll take you through that first. I have hollowed out the torso of Palpatine. That looks a bit morbid, Palpatine missing a torso. We've got the snot brick, studs not on top, with the 2 studs, going down about 4 plates before we get to 2 1x1 cheese slopes. To go on top of those studs, we've got 2 of my favorite Lego elements still. It's riding out the year on top, which looks like a hidden booty cheeks inside of Palpatine. That's put a nasty image in my mind. I'm not going to be able to get rid of that. But we got these 2 studs holding on a plate and 2 more slopes to line up to the cheese slopes at the bottom. So we've got no gap, and finish that off with a 1x2 tile. And then you build Palpatine's head as in the Revenge of the Sith 5-pack, and that sits flush on top. And then you have your Palpatine head straight from the Rise of Skywalker with, I don't even know if there's been anything recolored from that set to make it look like the minifigure we have down here. Perhaps the only difference I would make is to try and get a 2x4 in dark red, just so we've got a little bit of dark red underneath the robe. However, this brings me to a very interesting point. If you don't own the Sith Eyes and do want to build this Palpatine, the parts are fairly straightforward to part out from your collection, especially if you've got any of the Black Star Wars ships, like the Knights of Ren ship. That is another great 5-pack of Brickheadz to get, the 5-pack of Knights of Ren. I would love to see that. You can switch out the Sith Eyes with 1x1 studs with a hole in them. You can try to put some black or yellow studs underneath. Even for Threepio, I'd maybe add like a trans yellow tile on top. I'm gonna have to recommend the Lego Sith Eyed element. It's so good, works for Grievous, Palps, Annie, and even your Sith 3PO. But we're still not done yet. This is a 5-pack, and there's 2 very important characters that do square up to Papa Palpatine. Well, the first one doesn't really square up to Palpatine, as I don't think they even fight during this whole scene. They do come into contact with each other, though they're not in this state, and this is the unrobed Kylo Ren. What this minifigure is missing is a little bit of skin, a little bit of the wound mark, or what remains of it, and I've managed to capture that really well on the Brickheadz, which use the base of the Last Jedi Kylo Ren, simply recolors and switching out one of the bricks on front so we can get that triple stack of 1x1 plates to have that little bit of tan sneaking through the front of the tunic. For those of you that either haven't watched Rise of Skywalker, or it's been so long so you can't remember, it's actually been 6 years. That's crazy. Kylo gets stabbed by Rey at some point in the movie, trying not to spoil the whole thing, and ends up with a hole through his tunic, which reveals the little stab wound and doesn't really sew it up. I guess they don't really have sewing kits on hand at Star Wars, just like back to sprays and med mist, but that makes this a really fun Brickheadz to build. Nothing really too special about the back. I really like the hair, so this was a fun build for me. On to the final Brickheadz. This last one is by far, aside from Threepio and Babu, it's up there with the Emperor. It's one of my favorites. It's one of my top 3 favorites. Sorry, Kylo. I'd love to see Kylo return to screen, but the Brickheadz was pretty simple. And this character is Rey from Rise of Skywalker. Can't believe we didn't get this in a 1-pack. But again, we did get Rey for The Last Jedi. So I think that's probably why Lego haven't made it. But this outfit is one of Rey's best outfits and one of the better outfits throughout the sequels as well. Nothing against any of the others. This is just really, really nice outfit. And I've used the base of The Last Jedi Rey for this one as well. It goes without saying for Palpatine, Kylo, and Rey to use their existing Brickheadz and improve upon them, though that head still looks very much like Padme's from the recent Revenge of the Sith Brickheadz. I really like the robe at the front, how it differs to the rest. So if you do want to build that one, check out the instructions for the Last Jedi Brickheadz. Again, Kylo's using the Last Jedi Brickheadz, Palpatine's using the Rise of Skywalker, Babu Frick uses Anakin's from Phantom Menace, and that 3PO's a custom, fairly straightforward to make. Before you go on and watch the next one, let me know your favorite in the comments. If you did enjoy this, please do drop a like on the video, and don't forget to stay tuned for the rest of Mockember. Until tomorrow, may the bricks be with you always.